Eren Yeager is without any doubt one of the most well-written main characters in the history of anime. He is the reason that most of the important plot points in Attack on Titan developed the way they did. But have you ever wondered what would have happened if Eren Yeager was never actually born? Would Paradis survive? Would the rumbling happen? What would Mikasa shout all the time instead of Well, by the end of the video, I can guarantee to you that you would want to see this alternate what-if scenario as an anime adaptation as well. Beginning with Grisha's backstory, since Eren in this timeline does not exist, Eren Kruger does not access his future memories through the ability of the Attack Titan. As a result, the iconic foreshadowing moment of Eren Kruger, where he was seen saying to Grisha that he has to protect Armin and Mikasa, never happens. But you see, the worst part regarding Armin, and mostly Mikasa, is yet to happen. When Mikasa is abducted as a young girl, Eren is not there to protect her, and hence, Mikasa is either killed or sold by the human traffickers. The most likely scenario, however, is that Mikasa will not be killed, and indeed be sold instead. She later on resurfaces in the series as a crime lord or a mercenary, and for sure, in no way will she be present in the series as the Mikasa we knew in the current timeline. Given that Mikasa is raised in poverty and in an environment that everywhere she looked, there was crime. In order to survive, she becomes a badass and ruthless villain, and by using her Ackerman powers as well, she develops into an overpowered antagonist. She could even have a small role or a mini-arc where she would be an antagonist, possibly even teaming up with Kenny Ackerman. If Mikasa does indeed join Kenny, then Levi is now faced against two Ackermans, and thus makes his job much more difficult. But given that Levi is, Levi, we assume that he finds a way to make it out alive, even like that. I mean, the guy was blown into pieces by Zeke's bomb, and even like that, he went on to fight none other than the founding Titan Eren not so long after. Yeah, I think Levi would still manage to find a way to make it out alive in this situation. But yeah, if Levi wanted to truly go under the radar, then the best solution for him would be to use Surfshark VPN. Surfshark VPN offers the best identity protection through secure and fast protocols that ensure powerful encryption of personal data. But not only that, did you know that many popular anime series are blocked in various countries of the world? Believe me, it sucks when that happens. Once again, that's where Surfshark comes in. By using Surfshark VPN, you can connect to every website around the world without restrictions. Not only does Surfshark provide excellent services for the most affordable prices, they also offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. And by scanning this QR code, or by visiting the link in the description down below, you can use my code DOMAIN to get an additional 3 months of subscription completely free of charge. Download Surfshark VPN today. Back to our video. Believe me, I know Mikasa being a villain sucks, but wait to hear for what's about to come. Armin never meets Grisha because in the original timeline, they met through Eren. On top of that, Armin never becomes a scout. You see, the reason he became one in the first place was because Eren wanted to become one. I wanna! And Mikasa followed to protect Eren, and Armin joined alongside with them. Now that both Eren and Mikasa are not there to influence Armin, he never joined such a dangerous force on his own. But even though Armin never becomes a member of the Scouts, you, on the other hand, can always press that subscribe button and join the Domain Aniki side of YouTube. But wait, because from here onwards, the story can develop in 6 different ways, all depending on various actions from the remaining Attack on Titan characters. You see, in the first case scenario, we will assume that Eren is never born because Grisha decides to not have any more kids after the disappointment of Zeke. And to be honest, would you judge him? His own son betrayed him and told the Marley authorities to come and arrest both Grisha, his wife Dana, as well as all of their friends and comrades. Yeah, you heard that one right. His own son did that. All Eldia restorationists are tortured and turned into mindless titans because of that. With the exception of Grisha, of course, that escaped due to the help of Eren Kruger. Yeah, I guess not wanting to have any more kids after all that is beyond understandable. Grisha still marries Carla, but in order for Eren to never be born, we assume that they never have any children. During the special Marley operation that Team Annie was sent to obtain the founding Titan in Paradis, many changes happen compared to the original plot. Team Annie is sent to Paradis to reclaim the founding Titan. They breach the Wall Maria, trying to force the founding Titan to come out from hiding and defend as well as repair the wall. But before Team Annie reaches the wall, their friend Marcel, the Jaw Titan, is eaten by Ymir, who then sneaks into the walled city. When Team Annie, on the other hand, breaches the walls, a significant change occurs. Because of Eren's absence, after the breach of the walls, the Smiling Titan ends up eating Berthold instead of Carla Yeager, and thus obtaining the Colossal Titan, meaning that Grisha's former wife is now close to him once more as a human. However, Grisha had no way of knowing that Dana Fritz had now returned, and Dana, on the other hand, had no way of knowing that Grisha is anywhere close to her. After the wall was broken, Grisha attacks the Reese family. Hear me out. Even though Eren is not around, his original goal stays the same. He still wants to avenge the death of his sister, and he still wishes to save Eldia. Hence, his goal remains the same, to take the Founding Titan and then pass both the Founding and Attack Titan on to a successor. In his mind, he wants to pass on the Titan powers to another kid he met while being a doctor, although not confirmed. Around the time the walls were broken, it was estimated that Grisha was close to his 13th year of being a Titan shifter, and hence, due to the curse of Ymir, he was close to death. According to some character reports within the series, as per their story timelines, Grisha could have even exceeded the 13 years. But since these reports are not always 100% accurate, we assume that Grisha was very close to the 13th year, but had not yet passed it. During Grisha's encounter with the Reese family, Eren never manipulates Grisha into killing the Reese family, and hence Grisha holds back when he sees that, in order to obtain the power of the Founding Titan, he would have to do unspeakable things. Grisha hesitates, and hence Frida Reese uses her Titan transformation to kill Grisha. When Grisha dies, one of Erklin, Florian, Abel, Dirk, or even Frida Reese herself eat Grisha in order to obtain the power of the Attack Titan. But when it comes to Frida Reese defending Paradise from Team Annie, you see, she has royal blood, and hence Karl Fritz's vow of renouncing war takes place, not allowing her to go all out against Marley. However, even though Frida Reese is opposed to the act of war, this does not mean she is against the act of killing as well when she has to protect herself or the Eldians of Paradise. As we saw in the original timeline, Frida Reese was very weak and even lost against Grisha in a 1v1 since she was inexperienced and did not know how to properly use her Titan abilities to fight. However, if Team Annie does not know who or where exactly the Founding Titan is, then that gives Frida the advantage. Plus, Frida can always use the power of the Founding Titan to pinpoint exactly who, when, and where are her opponents. The only reason Grisha managed to get close to her was because he caught her off guard. If Frida is alarmed, then Team Annie has a way more difficult job than Grisha. In this timeline, we will assume that Frida Reese defeats Team Annie, and thus the Armored and Female Titan are now in the possession of the Reese family. The Jaw Titan and the Colossal Titan are in the possession of the people living within Paradise, but are not in the possession of the Reese family. The Jaw Titan is in the possession of Ymir, while the Colossal Titan is in the possession of Dana Fritz. After a few years, since Team Annie never returns home, Zeke is sent to investigate what is going on in Paradise. However, not long after that, he is spotted. Zeke kills a bunch of people with his lethal boulder throws, but that's before Levi arrives in the scene. When Levi arrives, remember that Zeke now does not have the help of Berthold and Reiner, but on the other side of the camp, Paradise does not have Armin, Mikasa, or Eren as well. Levi defeats Zeke, but just like in the original timeline, Peak storms in, grabs Zeke, and runs away. Just like in the original plot, Erwin is among the casualties from Zeke's lethal boulder throws. Zeke returns back to Marley and reports to them. They realize that Marley has lost the war, and they now focus on defending rather than attacking. After all, now that Marley has lost control of 4 Titan shifters, they are very vulnerable in potential attacks from other nations as well. Marley is now left with only 3 Titans, the Beast, Warhammer, and Cart Titan, while Eldia now has 4, the Founding, Armored, Female, and Attack Titan. But you see, Marley thinks that Eldia has 6 Titans, since the Jaw and Colossal Titan never returned back to Marley. This, on top of the fact that Eldia has the Founding Titan, and also from the fact that Eldia is now alerted of Marley's intentions, making them be even more prepared, makes Marley change their tactical approach and focus only on defending for the time being. But if you ever wondered what would happen with Grisha's basement in this version of the story, we got you covered on that question as well. You see, since there is no Eren to tell them about his father's basement, no one goes looking for it. Eldia keeps living their lives in ignorance of the real world secrets. They never find out all the details about Marley, and they just keep going on expeditions beyond the walls in hopes of getting any leads. They keep fighting mindless titans in order to somehow find out some of the world's secrets. Many people keep dying, and even though no great war happens again for at least a few decades in Paradise, since Marley does not have the power to start a war, the people left in Paradise live in terrible conditions, in poverty, and they never see the outside world. But hold your horses, because that was just one of the 6 timelines we will cover. You see, in the second version of this what-if scenario, we will assume that, again, Grisha has no kids after the disappointment of Zeke. But the difference here is that Frida loses against Team Annie. As we mentioned, Frida Reese was very weak when she first became a Titan shifter, so in her battle battle with Team Annie, it is not far-fetched to believe that she might end up losing against them under some circumstances. We do admit that the chances are with Frida due to her founding Titan powers, but in the very least, Team Annie does have some chances too. We assume that in this version of the story, Team Annie manages to restrain Frida, and just like their order said, they bring her back to Marley so that another warrior candidate can eat her and finally obtain the power of the founding Titan. When Frida is in Marley, however, Zeke realizes that this is the best chance to complete his plan. He infiltrates Frida's prison and he takes her away in order to eat her and obtain the power of the founder. When Zeke is far away, he does exactly that. He eats Frida, and thus, now becoming the new founding Titan shifter, also has royal blood. Before leaving Marley, he leaves them a note explaining his plan to them, and he tells them that he will use the power of the founding Titan in order to prevent Eldians from reproducing. He warns them that if they attack Eldia, he will initiate the rumbling and kill anyone close to Paradise. According to his plan, the best course of action for Marley is to wait a few decades until all Eldians are finally dead, and hence, finally Marley winning the war. But what Marley does instead is that they wait a few years for Zeke to die from the curse of Ymir, and then attack Paradise. Marley wins the war and destroys Paradise by killing everyone within the island. After all Eldians are dead, the power of the Titans no longer exists in the world of Attack on Titan. Even though both of these timelines were pretty exciting, the third way this story could develop is just as mind-blowing. If we assume that Eren Yeager was never born, that could happen through Grisha never making it to Paradise. You see, Grisha could die while traveling there. Hear me out. After inheriting the Attack Titan, Grisha still had to travel to another country and then cross halfway through the country in order to arrive to Paradise. In his way, there are a lot of mindless Titans lurking, so even if he had the power of the Attack Titan, this does not mean he would be 100% safe from the Titans. If a mindless Titan eats Grisha, then that person would return as human, but not knowing what is going on, that person would probably be killed once more. This cycle continues until the Titan shifter dies without being eaten by a mindless Titan. And you know what happens in that situation? The power of the Attack Titan will respawn into a random Eldian child being born at that moment. However, Eldian children are born in both Eldia and Marley. In this timeline, we will assume that the child inheriting the Attack Titan is a resident of Paradise, since way more Eldians live in Paradise, and thus the chances are that if it were to happen, a baby from Paradise would be the one to obtain the power. When that happens, neither the baby nor his family have any idea that their child is a Titan shifter. The baby just lives its life without knowing that it possesses such a power. The only thing it does observe while growing up is that any injuries it gets, they heal extremely quickly. But since the people of Paradise have no idea that this happens due to a Titan shifter power, they don't really think much of it. After a few years, the baby accidentally triggers the Titan transformation. Everyone is shocked, and when that happens, the people within Paradise kill the Attack Titan holder, and hence the power of the Attack Titan gets transferred anew to a random Eldian baby being born at that time. The process keeps happening until the power of the Attack Titan falls in the hands of Marley. When that happens, Marley knows exactly what to do with it, and hence pass on the power of the Attack Titan to a warrior candidate, thus increasing their Titan powers even more. A few years later, they initiate the special operation to retake the founding Titan by invading Paradise. The newly added Attack Titan joins Team Annie and heads to Paradise along with them. When that happens, we are basically taken back to Timeline 1 or Timeline 2, where either Frida defeats Team Annie or Team Annie defeats Frida Reese. Timeline 4 is by far the quickest to explain in our list. We will assume that Eren Kruger's identity as an Eldia restorationist is blown while being in Marley. If that happens, both Eren Kruger and Grisha end up dead. Or even worse than that, Grisha ends up being turned into a mindless Titan and is destined to run around for all eternity, while Kruger is taken captive for a warrior candidate to eat. In this timeline, something very similar as Timeline 3 happens, as here, the Attack Titan gets passed on to Marley directly, without any in-between holders. Now, when it comes to the fifth timeline, what if Grisha's plan and identity is never blown while in Marley? That can happen if we assume that Zeke never betrays his parents, and thus never tells Marley what they are up to. In this version of the story, we will assume that Zeke never becomes a Titan shifter. That's because without him betraying his family and turning them in to the Marley authorities, he is soon expelled from the warrior program due to the pure athletic performances that he displayed. The plan of the Eldia restorationists fails a few years later, as without a Titan shifter, they can never truly fight back. After a few years, the Eldia restorationists are either all captured or end up dead or mindless Titans, or they just quit their plans to restore Eldia back to its former glory and live their remaining lives like they did so far, enduring the disgrace and discrimination from the Marleyans and accepting that their fates cannot change. And yeah, after that, we're back again to Timeline 1 or Timeline 2, depending on what happens during the special operation of Team Annie in Paradise, and whether Team Annie or Frida Reese triumphs over the other group. In our sixth and final timeline, however, we'll assume that while again, Grisha's identity is never blown while in Marley, in In this version of the story, something different happens with Zeke. Wanna guess what that one is? If you said that Zeke manages to obtain the power of a Titan Shifter, then you're 100% correct. You see, in this version of the story, we assume that in time, Zeke bounces back and manages to obtain a spot in the Warrior program, and thus finally obtaining the power of a Titan Shifter. After a few years, that's actually exactly what happens. Zeke becomes a Titan Shifter, and now Grisha's wish has come true. But more of that in this video, where we present in full detail what would have happened if Grisha's plan to make Zeke a Titan Shifter actually succeeded. Otherwise, check out more Attack on Titan content in this video. But before you go, just a reminder that this video was brought to you by Surfshark. Support the channel and enjoy the benefits of their excellent VPN services. Download Surfshark VPN today.